Hello and welcome. I'm Michelle Paver and we're going out live on YouTube and Twitch TV. You can find the links on my website, michellepaver.com/chat. And if you'd like to take part in the live chat, you probably realized how to do it by now, but you can go to YouTube, just start typing in the live chat area, or you can tweet on using the hashtag Torak. You can go to Twitch TV, do the same thing as YouTube. And I'm hoping to catch up with some of the live chat later in the program. Well, wherever you are in the world, you're probably in some form of lockdown, as am I. I hope you're staying well. And if you're not that well, I hope you're getting better. You're not getting too fed up with lockdown. My own lockdown has been, surprise, surprise, writing quite a lot. Apart from that, the odd walk on Wimbledon Common. Oh, and the big highlight has been two young tawny owls have been taken to flying onto the tree just outside my window about 10 o'clock at night, every night, and cheeping away. They can fly, but they're still quite fluffy. So that's been the highlight. Well, before I get to your questions and comments, we've news of, just to liven things up a bit, there's a free giveaway, which some of you may be interested in. And I think my resident elf has worked out a little video to show you what to do to take advantage of this. So perhaps we can show that.
A proof copy of a book doesn't look like the final version you see in bookshops. A proof is an early version of the book, usually without the final cover design. Proofs are mostly used for final review by the author, editors, and other people inside the publishing company. And sometimes they may be sent out to booksellers and journalists to create some publicity. Because not many proofs are ever printed, they can be quite rare. And a proof copy signed by the author is even rarer. We have 3 signed proof copies of Michelle's ghost story, Thin Air, to give away to readers. Here's how to enter this free giveaway. Send an email to proof@wolfbrother.info containing your own name and your postal address. Closing date is next Monday, the 6th of July. 3 lucky winners will be chosen at random. It's easy to enter. Do it now, and good luck.
Well, there we go. So you have 7 days if that appeals to any of you, if you're into thin air, which leads me nicely on to the questions, because the first lot of questions are about dark matter and thin air. The very first one is from Mick Conefrey. Yes, we're into Ask Michelle Anything at that time. Mick Conefrey, who enjoyed reading Thin Air, and Mick is actually someone who knows his mountaineering. He's written many award-winning books and made documentaries, and he's written a book which actually you sent me, Mick, and it arrived, The Last Great Mountain, about Kanchenjunga, which looks absolutely fascinating, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to reading it. So thank you for that. Also, Anthony Toohey is asking whether Dark Matter, which has been recommended to you, is available in the US on Kindle. I'm afraid not at the moment. That's really in the hands of the publishers. I'm afraid you'll have to get your hands on a UK copy, in hard copy, I think. Then moving on to Ian Hawkes, who very much enjoyed Dark Matter and Thin Air and has a truly terrifying story about some falls he's survived, including a 400-foot one about 20 years ago. That's quite astonishing. I'm very glad you survived. You also say you quite like to have a dog like Cedric. And on to Wakenhurst. Thank you very much for sending that. We now have a clutch of lovely comments. I'm only going to show you the first one because some of the others are a little bit too long. Louis Taylor has the first of several comments. This is a lovely one. Very much enjoyed reading the series and taking you back to reading Outcast. And you've decided that you may well be an author when later in life. That's what you want to do with your life. And you just ordered Viper's Daughter. I can't show you all of the comments because some of them are a little bit long. And I should say, actually, that because we've been getting so many questions that I'm not going to be showing every single one on screen. Otherwise, we'd be here for about 3 hours. But I'll answer as many as I can. And some of the comments, though, were so lovely. Oliver from New Zealand has finally received his copy of Viper's Daughter and is planning to write his own 4-book series, so good luck with that. Alexandra Liddle sent an absolutely gorgeous, very, very long but beautifully heartfelt comment really about when I visited her in her school in Bath, and she didn't manage to get a signed copy of Wolf Brother, but her wonderful mother had produced one from behind her back when Alexandra got home. And so it's quite spooky, isn't it, Alexandra, that you're just writing in with a wonderful comment, and then out comes Viper's daughter. Libby, who's a teacher and a very talented one from the sound of it, has shared with me Zach's amazing review among, many of her other pupils wrote reviews, a very wolfy and beautifully heartfelt review. 2 more from Mike Amos. Thank you, Mike, for those. I'm so glad you got your pre-order and your goodies. And thank you for the picture of the Pictish wolf. You might want to share that on the virtual museum in wolfbrother.com. Joe Cordwell, who's 45 and his whole family enjoys Viper's Chronicles. I hope you enjoy Viper's Daughter. And Cassia Gomazel, I hope I pronounced that right, has really enjoyed the Viper's Daughter audio. Cassia, I'm not sure about naming a character after Gorse, but we'll see. Nice try anyway. Now we have some more substantive questions. We have some from Luke. So if we can go to that, yes. Now, just asking me about I'll go quickly through these, Luke, because there are quite a few. How did I come up with the names? For example, like Torak, short answer is I made them up. How did I get the idea for the Soul Eaters? Well, I just thought I'd have sort of shamans or witch doctors who usually work for good, but I'd make them bad. That's where I got the idea. And then finally, this question about where did I get the idea for writing from in the Stone Age, setting the story in the Stone Age? And that's a question that was also asked by Jenna Hill and Amia Sail. I hope I pronounced your names right. Well, that was my parents, really. They had a big book, which I have here, about the Stone Age. And it's got, even before I could read, it showed, I used to look at these pictures. I'm not sure if this is going to come out, but you can see some, and they're sort of cave paintings and things. They're really quite accurate pictures, and it just fired my imagination. Now, we've got an interesting one from Chelsea, who's in the US, I think. So maybe we can see that, yes. And lovely comments about how you really enjoyed the books. And you're enjoying Viper's Daughter. Glad to hear that, Chelsea. And then the interesting question is, what would the people of Ren Torak's world actually have sounded like? What language would they have used? Well, this is 6,000 years ago, so they would definitely have had language, and it would have had grammar and words just as we do, but we wouldn't be able to understand it. To give you an example, well, the actual name that we would give their language is probably something like Proto-Indo-European, but who knows what they would call it. To give you an example, the English that people were speaking where I live in England 1,000 years ago was Anglo-Saxon. And I can say a bit. To give you a line from a poem, Hrerin mit hondam prim chaldasar, that means stirring with the hand the ice-cold sea. Hrerin mit hondam prim chaldasar. You can probably get a few of the words. It's a little bit different. So they would talk, and it would sound like a language, but we wouldn't be able to understand it. Catherine, this is a nice one. I'm glad you've asked this, Catherine. So let's bring that in. Yeah, I'm glad you've enjoyed Viper's Daughter. I was wondering if there would be any characters that could be considered LGBTQ plus in the future somehow. As a member of that community, I would be interested to see if the way of life was different towards people, if people acted differently towards them who were in the same-sex pairings. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I'd always wanted to, and in fact I'd planned to, have a character who, in fact I know who it is, who in Chronicles, I don't want to say too much because it's a spoiler, but is a member of that community, let's say. But it didn't work out in the story. You can't just plug something in as a token, or it would stick out if it didn't work in the story. It will come in to a later book. I don't want to say too much as a spoiler. In terms of how Stone Age people, and in Torak's world, would have approached people in that community, I think it would the clans would mirror the real world. In other words, you'd probably have some pretty nasty bigots. I think the Deep Forest would be pretty disapproving. Ravens, Sea Eagle clan, no problem at all. So there'd be and everything else in between. So I hope that answers your question, perhaps whets your appetite, but I don't know how much it will get into the story, but it's certainly always been there. All will be made clear when the next two books are published. Mira, thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name, Mira. Yes. Please, can we have a re-release? You love the original covers of the books, and other people have also said this. And as you know, Viper's Daughter is certainly harking back to the original covers. And yes, I mean, there are plans. I have seen and okayed the sort of slightly revamped but very, very beautiful original designs from John Fordham, which are going to go on reissued books. I just wish I could tell you when they're going to be coming out. Those are published by, will be published by Hachette. And I've been asking for the last year to find out when those will be coming out. So it'd be lovely to know that. Maybe we'll find out soon. And also, yes, this is an interesting question that Mira has, that she doesn't understand that Torek in Viper's Daughter, had to tell Wolf about spirit walking. Wasn't it established right away that Wolf has known all along that Torek can spirit walk? Interesting point, Mira. It looks like that in Spirit Walker. But actually, if you go back to the original discussion, conversation between Wolf and Torek, it's a bit more vague. And the thing is, Torek isn't sure. We know that Wolf knows, but Torek isn't really sure. And Wolf doesn't always know when Torek is spirit walking, and it comes as a bit of a surprise, as it does in the eagle scene with in Viper's Daughter. So you're right, but it's that question that Torek doesn't really know what Wolf knows, because his grasp of Wolf talk is a little bit imprecise. Now, Kara has an interesting one. Yes. Oh, yes. You also like the cover style from the previous books, but is also asking, is there a chart or visuals that have all the different clan tattoos? No, there isn't. I like to keep some of them a bit vague. I mean, the Seal clan ones and things. And finally, why is there no Bear clan? All will be made clear in Skin Taker. I've actually just been tweaking a paragraph which makes that very explanation clear. Let's go on to Hannah, who absolutely loved Viper's Daughter. I am very glad to hear that. Can we read that? That's a little bit. Can we enlarge that, do you think? Thank you, because it's a little bit smaller on my screen. And thank you for not giving away the villain. No spoilers. You're all brilliant at that. Was Wren's birth night ever mentioned in any of the books? No, it wasn't, for the good reason, to do with her parentage. Again, no spoilers, that she doesn't really know when her birth night is. And then this question about if someone is bone kin to another person, does that mean they're biologically related? Yes, it does. And your question is, also, is there a difference between bone kin and just kin? No, there isn't. I mean, bone kin is a way of sort of saying, it's a bit like we say, like, my blood relative. It's the same as relative. It's just a bit for emphasis. So yes, Tarek and Bale were remote cousins. I mean, not terribly close cousins, but they were related. So interesting question. Caroline, sorry, I was just reading the comment at the bottom there. Caroline Brown has said, will we ever find out Far's actual name? No, you won't. And I know it's already been 5 summers, but I just think it would be a bit odd if I told you now. So no, you won't. Moving on to Edmund and Athena, who actually sent in 2. We'll just show 1. How do you judge how scary to make your books? That's a great question. Sometimes you come very close to the limit. Yeah, well, it is tricky. I get help because Fiona Kennedy, my wonderful editor, is better than me at saying, and occasionally she's had to say, yeah, I think we need to pull back from here, Apart from anything else, Fiona's had children and I haven't, and that probably helps as well. But she's also, very much more in tune with what's going on in the book world and what people of certain ages can or can't take. Edmund and Athena also wanted to know, when did I start writing? Well, I was about 5 when I wrote my first book, short story. When did I stop being a lawyer? I think I was about 39, 20 years ago. My God. Adela and also Jamie Smith wanted to know. Yes, this is questions about settings. Some lovely comments. Thank you, Adela, about Chronicles. And she thinks it's Norway. Where's it set? She thinks it's Norway. It's actually set in Scandinavia, Adela, northern Scandinavia. So that's kind of Norway, Sweden, Finland, which technically isn't Scandinavia, but that sort of part of the country, part of Europe. Jamie Smiths wants to know why. Why did I set it in Norway? And that it's really because it just felt right. I've always been attracted to those sort of that sort of landscape and the animals and plants, and it felt right. And class, finally, on locations. Did I get any? Yes, let's have class. Thank you. Did you get any ideas from Sweden while writing the Wolf Brothers series? Oh, yes, I did. Particularly for Outcast. I did the research for Outcast in Sweden, so Lake Axehead. I got lots of ideas for that, and I visited an elk sanctuary. And so the young elk that Torak meets, that was based on my visit to the elk sanctuary. Zella, this is very nice. Yes, were you nervous about writing your books, and were you nervous going to Alaska and all the amazing places you went to? I'm never nervous about writing my books, Zella. I sometimes get nervous about what you lot are going to think of them, but no, I did get nervous. Going to Alaska. I'll tell you, the most nervous I got was actually checking in, because sometimes, you're in some remote place and you think, oh God, I hope the check-in works and I hope they've got my booking, because otherwise I'm kippered, I'm stuck. I also got quite nervous when I was in the ice cave doing the research for Viper's Daughter, because there was a massive great glacier on top of me, and that was a little nerve-wracking. But mostly it's just great fun. Gracie Lou Bolton. How did the seal blubber and leopard slug taste? Well, seal blubber depends on whether it's cooked or not. Cooked seal blubber is actually okay. It tastes a bit like the fat on a Sunday roast or something, which I'm not a great fan of, but it's not bad. Raw seal blubber it didn't have so much a taste, but it stuck to the roof of your mouth, and you kept sort of bringing it up afterwards. That really was not very nice. Leopard slug, strangely enough, didn't taste at all. I just licked it. I didn't chew it up, but it just had sort of a clean taste, like rainwater, really. So, yeah, fine. This is quite a meaty question from Margaret. So perhaps we can just enlarge it so people, thank you. You've been rereading the series and falling in love with it again. What culture or period might the society outlined in the books align with? Well, yes, and you were thinking, for the narwhals might have been influenced by the Nenets of the Yamal Peninsula. In terms of period, it's 6,000 years ago. So not any particular culture, archaeological culture, except Scandinavian archaeology from 6,000 years ago. In terms of more recent hunter-gatherer cultures, loads. The narwhals were particularly based on the Chukchi. I got a lot of ideas, I should say, from the Chukchi people of Chukotka. There's quite a lot on this in the author's note at the back of Viper's Daughter. From memory, I think the Nenet, and particularly the Evenk people, came into Ghost Hunter, gave me the inspiration for Ghost Hunter quite a lot. And then, the Inuit for Soul Eater, particularly for the White Fox clan, the Sami. I've raided lots of different cultures, and you've been seeing pictures. Some of the pictures you've been seeing have been from my trip to Haida Gwaii, so the Pacific Northwest First Nations. I'm afraid I've been like a magpie, and I've just taken little bits and then adapted them, because hunter-gatherer cultures, every culture is so different and so alive, and different from any other? So that's a great question. I could go on for ages, but I've just had a reminder from my wonderful elf. That's a lovely raven that I was talking to in Juneau. That's lovely. Yes, we're halfway through the questions, so we can have a little pause if you like and catch up with some live chat. I think, was that the reminder? Yes, a film series would be bigger than Potter. Any future plans? Well, funnily enough, yes, I'm just about to answer some questions on the film series. Anything else we've got in the live chat? Or shall we just go straight into the more questions, I think, since the film questions one? Yes, I know Viper's Daughter is number 7. Are there going to be more? Well, that's another question that, yes, there will be more. And I'll answer that at the end. I have a question about the Chronicles. Why didn't Tarek give Wolf an actual name, like he did for Rip and Wreck, and just kept calling him Wolf? It's because I just felt that he was Wolf. I tried to give Wolf names while I was writing the book, and he's just Wolf. Some characters just come into your mind, and they're just that. But it's a great question. I only just found out there was a potential to get goodies for pre-orders of Viper's Daughter. Is it too late? I'm afraid it is, because the pre-order, as the name suggests, is before publication date. So I'm afraid you've missed out, but not very much. Thinking about the hot weather, if you were being force-fed ice cream, what would be your dream flavour? I do like salted caramel, but it's got to actually have a taste of salt and not just be pure caramel. Yeah, it made me hungry now. When will Skin Taker release, and what will happen in Skin Taker? I'm definitely not telling you what will happen. It comes out beginning of April next year in the UK. Are we going to see more of Soul Eater lore in Viper's Daughter, seeing as the Eye of the Viper Mountain is in the far north? I don't think I can answer that because that would be a spoiler. Was Dark Matter your first ghost story? Yes, my favourite book ever. Rereading. Oh, I'm so glad it was my first ghost story, and I was I was nervous about writing that one because they're very difficult to write. So I'm glad it was well received and that you liked it. I'm glad it brings you back into the series so easily. Did you have any trepidation about returning to write more Chronicles of Ancient Darkness? I did a bit, Khaled. Until I got into Viper's Daughter, and then it started coming. What's the name of the sequel to Skin Taker? The sequel to Skin Taker is Wolfbane. Michelle, are you next doing a signing or meet? I'm an aspiring author, and your books have helped me out of a dark... Well, I'm really glad my books have helped you out of a dark time in your life. I'm glad you're out of it as well. I won't be doing a signing or a meet for quite a long time now, I'm afraid. I've got to be really careful, not just because I'm pushing 60 with the virus around, but also because I'm looking after my 89-year-old mother. So I don't want to unwittingly give it to her because then I might kill her. So I've got to be a bit careful about that. I think we'd better go back to some questions now. Otherwise, we could go on with this. That's a final one. Which was my favourite one? Oh, the place. I love the Arctic. I mean, there's lots of places in the Arctic that I love, but that's, yeah. Was it also your favourite setting to write? Well, I didn't tend to write in the Arctic except just taking notes. My favourite setting to write is really at home. But, okay, last one. Well, when will Skin Taker... Well, we've already had that. Skin Taker will come out in beginning of April. Right, now back to the questions. Yes, Bronte Bell. I think that's how I pronounce your name. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Now this actually is not. Wait a minute. I think yes. Okay, it's a slightly different format from the question. But what are your thoughts on a Chronicles of Ancient Darkness Netflix series? Yeah, well, I mean, let's just leaving Netflix aside. And this is also a question about film and things that Daniel has asked, and Emily Nielsen has asked, and also Itzel Dayanara Martinez Chavez has asked. They're all keen on the idea of a film or a series. Well, I have actually, I think I announced in a previous one that, yes, it is going to be made, we think, into a TV series. And I am thrilled. And the reason I'm thrilled is because the producers who are working on it they really, really get the series in a way that no other TV producers or film producers I've ever worked with have done. So fingers crossed. I mean, there's a long way to go, particularly in a pandemic, but I feel really good about that. And Bronte, good luck with your tattoo. Now I'm going to whiz through some questions about, well, sort of practical questions. Alma has asked a question, would very much like, this is from Mexico, and would love it if the seventh book was available in Spanish. I'm afraid I don't think there are any plans for it yet to be available in Spanish. Sorry about that. Jorge, do you have any Google group or a classroom? In other words, do I have one where you can all chat? I'm afraid not, because if I ran it, if I ran, if we had hosted, say, a chat room here on my website, one of us would have to be watching it all the time, because most of you are absolutely, all of you are wonderful. But then if we got some nasty person coming in, we'd be responsible, so we'd have to watch it, and that's the real reason why we can't do it. But you can always, start your own. You're all digital natives compared to me, or most of you are anyway. And the question is again, will Viper's Daughter be translated into Spanish? I don't think there are any plans at the moment. Okay. Nicolas again wants to know, Gods and Warriors. You've been enjoying Gods and Warriors, but you've only got the first two books in Spanish. Again, I don't know. It's up to the local publishers whether they decide to translate the others. I hope so. Otherwise, you're going to have to read it in English, I'm afraid. Chloe now, if we could move to that. A big fan of Chronicles. Just discovered Gods and Warriors. Why is only the first one available on audio? Well, that's because Penguin decided they didn't want to do any more. And they didn't tell me for quite a long time, which didn't exactly please me. But there we go. So I'm afraid, no more audio for Gods and Warriors. Martina, let's have one from Martina. Yes, are they going to reissue or renew the Chronicles in Poland? Again, I don't know. Especially now when Viper's Daughter is coming out. I think quite honestly, and it's good that you've asked the publishers, Martina, but I think the pandemic is slowing things down quite a lot. So let's hope that, when things get back a little bit more to normal, and maybe the TV series will encourage things to happen. Maria, now you are working, this is fascinating, studying literature and creative writing at Umeå, I don't know if I said that right, University in Sweden, and you're doing a paper on Wolf Brother, asking me how many copies were sold of the book worldwide. I'm afraid I don't know. I really don't, because nobody's actually sort of added it up. We know that it's some good while ago, at least 3.5 million were sold of the series, but I don't know how many of Wolf Brother. And I think Ali Carver also wanted to know how long it took me to get to the 1 million mark. And again, I don't know. You think we would, but we don't. There's me with Ian McKellen. That was a fun day. Yes, and now we've just got a few more quick ones, and we are getting there. Whipping through these questions. Saffron James. Yes, which is a nice one. Says some lovely things. From a GDST school, just watched my video, which I did. Did you ever want to be a writer when you were younger, or did it just happen? Oh, I did. I did want to be a writer, particularly from when I was at university, and I actually had to make it happen. And she also asked, are you going to write lots of books during lockdown? Depends how long it lasts. It takes me about a year to write each book. But yes, I will be writing. Charlotte, if we can move to Charlotte Braybrook. What inspired you to drop out of law and become a writer? Because I wanted to be a writer, basically. Law was just to pay the bills. Why didn't you study English instead of law at university? Well, actually, I studied biochemistry, and I did law later, again, to pay the bills. Did you enjoy writing while you were at prep school? Yes, very much. Can you give me any tips on becoming a good at creative writing? Well, I can't do too much because there's quite a lot still to be getting on with. But I think one tip is to carry a notebook with you so that if you get ideas, you can jot them down. Otherwise, you might forget them. And it may sound boring, but the most important thing of all is to rewrite. Put your story away for a while and then take another look at it and see if you can make it better. And that's, rewriting is the key to good writing. Let's move on to Rahini. What's your favourite part of being an author and what inspired you to start writing? I don't know the second one because I just started writing when I was 5, but I love it when a scene really comes alive, almost without my having to work at it. That doesn't happen very often. And I also love it when I really like the covers of a book, one of my books. And I love what Head of Use have done with Wakenhurst and with Viper's Daughter. And just very recently, last week, my Russian publishers sent me the cover they want to do for Wakenhurst. Perhaps we can see that. Yes, can we enlarge that a bit? I think it's absolutely gorgeous. They wanted my approval, and I just said, yeah, I absolutely love it. So that's a really fun part of being a writer, when your publishers just get it absolutely bang on. Juliet, who was your biggest inspiration when you were younger? It's going to sound corny, but I think my mother, because she read a lot. She used to help choose my books when I was, when we went to the library, and she always chose really good ones, like the Moomin books. What is your favourite book or series of books? I don't have a favourite. It changes, all the time. Michael Fairweather, who did you look up to when you wrote the first book, Wolf Brother? Who did I look up to? This is going to sound really harsh, but I don't really look up to people very much. There wasn't anyone I particularly looked up to. I mean, I loved my mother. I love my mother. My father was dead by then. So, yeah, no in particular role model. Ellie Tarrant. Can we have Ellie Tarrant now? Yeah, this is a lovely one, talking about how you'd read Wolf Brother when you were younger. And these books are very personal to you, and very excited to read Viper's Daughter. What made you decide to write a 7th book? Well, I think at this stage, as time is getting on, I'm going to have to refer you to the author's note in Viper's Daughter, which explains that. So when you get hold of it, you'll find out. And Mira now we have, who's just, yes, we've got a little clutch of questions about inspiration. It's not only Mira, it's also India and Jellybean, who also want to know, where did I get the idea for the inspiration for Wolf Brother? I don't have time now to tell you the full story, but I can tell you where you can find it. I've had a little tootle around on my website, wolfbrother.com. If you go to wolfbrother.com and you go into the cave, which is a lovely area which has all sorts of interesting bits and pieces to do with the series, and I think on the 2nd or 3rd page you'll find something called Why I Wrote Wolf Brother. It's a little essay. It's almost like homework I was set by my publishers, and that tells you why I wrote Wolf Brother. Freya now. If we could go to that. Yes. Do you think in the future you will write more books? Well, yes, I hope so. As long as I get ideas, I will. What genre would they be? And would the main character, if there is one, be a boy or a girl? That they'll probably be gothic or a ghost story or something. Whether it's a boy or a girl depends on the particular story, so you can't really tell that in advance. Also, where did you write all your books? I write them in my study, which looks out over Wimbledon Common. Munira, how long does it take to write a book or a series? Perhaps we can just show that. Yes, there we are. It depends. I mean, Wakenhurst, which is a grown-up book, Gothic story, took about 2 years, because that was a really difficult one to write. The book I'm starting to write, I just started thinking about it last week, is book 9 of the Torak books, Wolfbane. That should take between 10 months to a year, quite a long time. Yeah. considering that it doesn't take you too long to read the books. And now we're down to two last questions. One is from Sophia, I don't know, who's 9. Will you write a 9th book after Skin Taker? I really, really enjoyed the first 7 books. I'm so glad. And you're writing at the moment. Yes, you're writing a book based on the Stone Age. So will I write a 9th book after Skin Taker? Yes. As I said just now, I've already just made a start. The moment is just a pile of notes, but I will be definitely writing it. It's called Wolfbane. And the final question is from Bree. Your books are amazing. Thank you. Are you doing any more books after Viper's Daughter? Just to recap, Skin Taker is the next book. And after that, Wolfbane. And here's a final thing. If any of you are really keen on finding out what Skin Taker is about, I'm not going to be saying very much about it. But you'll be able to get a sneak preview of chapter 1. Because it's going to be at the back of the paperback edition of Viper's Daughter, which comes out in early November. So in a few months' time, the paperback of Viper's Daughter comes out, and at the back of that will be the first chapter of Skin Taker. And I have to say, I don't want to boast, but I think it's one of my best first chapters. I'm very pleased with it, for reasons you'll find out when you read it. So I think we've got some more. That's all the questions that have come in, but what is the more live chat questions? What's the general view of clanless folk? Are they viewed as simple travellers or with extreme suspicion? Yeah, I mean, they are viewed generally with a level of spite, like outcasts. I mean, it's very, I don't know, spoilers here, but it's very unusual to be clanless. So are you planning on writing any more ghost stories? I have an idea that I'm kicking around. I'm not sure if there's a story there, but there's something. So yeah, I'd love to, if I get a really strong story that I know is strong enough. How good was Alaska? Oh, it was amazing. I loved Alaska. I mean, you've been seeing a lot of pictures, actually. The Elf has been showing you lots of pictures from the Alaskan and Haida Gwaii trip. I'd love to go back. I won't be doing much travelling in the next year or so because of the pandemic. I'd like to get the magpie illustration from the Wakenhurst tattooed soon. I think you can just go ahead. I mean, you'll find that the name of the artist is in the author's note at the back. It's in the acknowledgements where I thank him, but I'm sure he'll be happy for you to do that, as long as you're not underage. A film series will be bigger than Potter. Any future plans? Well, a television series, we do have future plans. We'll just have to wait and see how it gets developed. Which places do you go for the Wolf Brother series and Thin Air for ideas? Too many to name. They're all listed in the back of each of the Wolf Brother books, all over Scandinavia and the Arctic. Thin Air was Himalayas. I did a hike through the foothills of Kanchenjunga. I'm keen on seeing more clans having big roles in the new books with customers, magic and rituals. Yeah. Well, there's some in Skin Taker. Well, there's quite lots more clans. And then there'll be quite a lot of difference in Wolfbane. I just don't want to tell you too much. Where do you get your inspiration for your characters? That's a tricky one. Lots from different people. I don't really know. The characters seem to sort of come. Are we going to see more of Soul Eater lore? We've seen that one. Yes, we've had that question before. I think yes, are we going to see a development of Ren's supernatural power? Well, there's always a bit of magecraft. And yes, actually, the answer is you will. There's certainly more magecraft in Skin Taker. Is it deliberate that Torak sounds like Track? No, it isn't deliberate. It's quite cool that he does, because he's very good at tracking. But no, it's not deliberate. Will Wolfbane be the final book? Yes, it will be the final book. And actually, Mike Amos asked that. And so, yes, I think 9 has a sort of nice magical number. How many words do I write a day? I don't really count the words. So sometimes it's nothing because I'm just planning. And sometimes it might be 1,000 or 1,500 or so. I do it by hour. I think that's a hangover from when I was a lawyer. So I try to do about 5 or 6 hours a day. Last question from the live chat. How do you enter the giveaway? Yes, I think the giveaway, which was the thin air proof, it's on the screen now. Thank you very much, Elf. To win a signed copy proof, simply send an email to, there we go, proof@wolfbrother.info with your name and postal address. That's very important, so otherwise we won't be able to send it to you. The first 3 emails, which are picked at random, will win. So you just do that, you send an email and with your name and postal address, very important, and then I will sign the books. So there we go. Wow, you've been a lively lot today. I hope I haven't gone on too long, but thank you very much. That's all we've got time for. Thank you very much. Firstly, to the wonderful Elf. Oh, thank you. I've got a calming voice. Thank you to the wonderful Elf who's done all of this in the teeth of quite difficult technical problems, I'm told, but some beautiful pictures and all these questions seamlessly coming up whenever I wave my magic wand. So thank you to you. Thank you to my publishers, Head of Zeus, for keeping going in these very, very difficult times. And most of all, though, thank you to all of you for taking part, for sending in questions and lovely comments. I read every single word of them, for taking part in live chat. Keep the questions coming. And I think some of you may know, you go to michellepaver.com / click on ask rather and fill in the form, and I will answer as many of your questions as I possibly can. You can also keep in touch with me, or up to date with me rather, on Twitter at Michelle Paver. I have to read this bit, otherwise I'll get it wrong, and on YouTube and Instagram. So anyway, it's goodbye until next time, and wherever you are, look after yourselves, stay well, and happy reading. Bye-bye.